Am I wrong for telling my daughter she cannot introduce her African American boyfriend to her grandparents? I already smell the racism from this post. Let me preface this by saying I have absolutely no problem with interracial relationships. Now that the air is clear, let me continue. But the fact that your parents do, it's the same thing. My daughter Anna has recently started to date an African American man, Jamal. While I'm not exactly what you would refer to as a liberal, he's a nice young man, and as long as my daughter is happy, I'm happy. The problem is, Anna is rather naive about the community she lives in. While her friends are quite content to see a relationship like hers, more than a few tongues are wagging in the community, and a few people have privately expressed their concern to me. Okay, so you live in a prestigious white neighborhood, and so people are freaking out that your white daughter is dating a black man. As I've said, I have no problem with mixed relationships, and I've set them straight, but I am painfully aware of how these matters are viewed by certain segments of the population. Stop trying to sugarcoat it. You live in a racist neighborhood. My parents are coming to stay with us for a week, and Anna expressed a desire to introduce Jamal to them now that things are getting much more serious between them. I told her on no uncertain terms that this wasn't going to happen. I may have no problem with Jamal, but they absolutely will. And even when the relationship ends, they won't forget it. What do you mean when the relationship ends? You're already forecasting that she's gonna break up with him? Like, that's not cool. You make it sound like it's just a fling. They might even go as far as to cut her off entirely. Anna was extremely upset by this and implied I was a racist and more concerned with what my parents think than how she feels. As I said, I know my parents. They simply aren't okay with mixed relationships, and if Anna were to bring Jamal over, even as a friend, they would be furious both at her and me. Anna is currently staying with Jamal and doesn't want to speak with me right now. My wife stands by me, given she knows very well how my parents are. They had a problem with her for months over the length of the skirt she wore when I introduced her to them, for Christ's sake. But a close friend I confided in told me that I have behaved like an ass and that I need to focus more on my daughter than pleasing my parents. No advice needed, but I have to know, have I been an ass? Our parents, especially at that age, they know what they know and they don't ever want to change their way of thinking. Very rarely will you be able to convince an old person something that they don't want to believe. Am I wrong for kicking my husband out of the delivery room after he started crying? My husband, Kevin, male 31, and I, female 27, welcomed our first baby a week ago. Kevin is the type of person that gets stressed out easily and reacts to events negatively. We've had conversation about his ability to handle being in the delivery room. I said if he couldn't be there, it was fine, seeing how he reacts under pressure and can have mom there instead. He said he could 100% handle anything and promised to be supportive and positive. I went into labor alone. He met me at the hospital, and when he entered the room, he looked so stressed out and overwhelmed already. He started moving around periodically, completely ignoring me. He got more visibly stressed when my pain got intense. He took my hand when I started having contractions and kept clutching it, almost stopping blood circulation. My entire arm went numb. I felt strain, and although I was in intense pain, I saw his face. It was so red, and there was a visible vein in his forehead that looked like it was ready to blow up. It was not helpful at all, in fact. It was frustrating and affected my emotions negatively. But still, I was willing to suck it up. Then suddenly, he started crying. Like literally sobbing really loud. I found myself screaming, telling him to stop several times, and as a result, he literally yelled back in my ear. The nurse got involved. I told her to get him out of here. He tried to argue with me, but wasn't given a chance and was pressured to leave the room. I didn't see him afterwards after our daughter was born, and while I was resting, he didn't show up. His mom kept calling to see where he was. She stayed with me, and I haven't seen him till the day I was discharged. We had a big fight at home. He kept lashing out when I said how bad it was for him to ghost me when I needed him the most. He said I shouldn't expect him to stick around after cruelly and selfishly kicking him out of the room and robbed him an opportunity to see our daughter's first breath. I explained he was causing me to panic with how he was crying, but he accused me of making up excuses after I was purely at fault for kicking him out and getting the staff to gang up on him no matter how hard I tried to spin it. He said as a dad, he should have the liberty to be in the room no matter how he behaves and whether I like it or not. I got tired of arguing and I told him to stop, and he said he will, but he will never forget what I've cost him that day, and walked out. I was so mad and took time to cool off. Then when I unpacked my bag, I found a small box that contained a necklace with our daughter's name. I felt awful knowing Kevin left it for me to wear at the hospital, but the argument happened and he spent the entire time in the car in the hospital's parking lot.
My husband asked me for an open marriage because he wasn't attracted to me anymore. About 1 year ago, my husband, 48 male, told me, female 39, that he wasn't sexually attracted to me anymore. I kind of understood that because since our son, male 4, was born, he hadn't had sex with me. He said he loved me more than anything in the world and that the rest of the relationship was perfect, but he needed to have sex or he would go crazy. I was taken aback, but I started asking him about the definition of an open marriage and we discussed it over a few weeks. To be honest, I was feeling sexually deprived and the idea started to grow on me. I said yes and asked if there were any rules. He said that usually every couple has their own rules. So our rules is no bringing them home and using protection. My husband was also very clearly that he also wanted to know who the other persons were and when. The when was to plan our days. He was meeting new women within a week. He told me everything, showed me pictures, and was gone most of the nights. Not gonna lie, I felt like shit, but I thought that I needed to give it time. I was more careful, however, because I needed to know the people that I had sex with and at least had some kind of feelings. But I started to relax more and flirt back with guys. One of them is a client, Jay, male 36, at the bank that I work for. Not my client, but he sees me often and he's always been pleasant and extra chatty with me. Now, I started flirting about a month ago and I finally decided that I was ready to start sleeping with others. I told Jay about my arrangement. He was disappointed at first, but he said that he was in. I went home to my husband and asked him if he was going to do anything that Friday, and he said no. I told him that it was good because I needed him to be with the children. I showed him Jay and told him that I was meeting him Friday. He was silent. Friday came and my husband texted me that he was stuck at work and he later was going to meet a girl so he couldn't watch the children. This continued. Every time I fixed a date with Jay, he would do the same and leave me with the children. I don't mind spending time with my children, but I was getting annoyed. Anyway, last Monday I had no meetings at work after lunch, which often means that I don't need to stay in place. I texted Jay if he wanted to meet and he was at home. My children are in daycare. I went to his place and it was amazing. I have missed this so much. The feeling that I'm desired and someone's eyes on me is filled with lust for me and my body. When I got home, I told my husband and he was livid because I didn't tell him beforehand. I broke a rule. I told him that I didn't. He knew that I was seeing this guy and that I've been trying to make time. Anyway, he didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. He woke me up in the middle of the night with gentle kisses and touches and we had sex 3 times. This was the first time in almost 5 years and we've had sex every night since. Now he's saying that he's attracted to me again and that's why we need to close the marriage again, but I don't want to. I like having other options and we're not hurting anyone. What should I do? My husband wants to close the marriage now that other men found me attractive. I've already stated that we never had sex for years due to lack of attraction from his part, which led to him suggesting that we open the marriage. When I found Jay, however, my husband was suddenly attracted to me. We have been having sex regularly. I loved it because I love my husband and it was just wonderful feeling desired by him again. Even though deep down I knew he wasn't attracted to me as much as he was just panicking that I'm starting to sleep with others. And I was right. Last Tuesday, I was supposed to meet Jay again. So Monday evening, as per our agreement, I told my husband about it. He was so surprised. Why do you want to meet him when I've slept with you every night this past week? I just looked at him and told him that I didn't understand what he meant. We had an open marriage and I've been very clear that I didn't want to close it again. I felt happy and content for the first time in years and he had been sleeping with others for a year without any problems. Why now? Well, he told me that he hadn't been with anyone in almost 2 weeks because he thought that I was enough. So he didn't understand why he wasn't enough for me. I asked him why the sudden interest in me and my body. He has never been so interested before and he has never been so passionate and attentive. Not even when I was 10 years younger and more beautiful. He said he always found me beautiful and he didn't know why he's more attracted now. I told him that I knew why. Because suddenly you couldn't picture someone else with your wife and suddenly I was more than a wife and mother in your eyes. I was a sexual being. He tried to deny it but I didn't budge. I told him that he wasn't seeing other women because he was too busy trying to keep me at bay. The moment I was under his control again, he would lose interest and start seeing other women. Hopefully when I'm pregnant because in your mind I would be less appealing to men. He was so angry about this and he told me that it was all in my head. He threw the dinner plate across the room and left. He spent the night outside. The next day when he was calmer, I told him that I didn't want to close our marriage. I loved him very much, but I was miserable without sex. I believed in my heart that the both of us could have the cake and eat it too. We could have our beautiful life with our children and careers, family and friends, and our hobbies and trips and dinner dates. Everything that we loved and cherished about each other and active sex lives with like-minded people. I told him that he didn't seem to be as cool with my pics as I was all these months with all the women he showed me. Maybe I could be more discreet so the men I met stayed faceless in his mind. Maybe it was easier. He didn't answer me. Or we could go our separate ways. To this, he was starting to get agitated again, so I asked him to calm down and listen. He couldn't just demolish my kitchen and walk away every time I said something that wasn't to his taste. I couldn't and wouldn't go back to how things were before opening our marriage, so he either wanted this or we could get a divorce. I asked him to think about it. Thursday, when he got back from work, I had already changed and ready to go out. He didn't say anything. When I got home, he was crying and saying that he couldn't do this anymore. I told him that we only have one solution then and it was divorce. He said that I was brutal. You're not the beautiful, kind woman that I married anymore. He hasn't been home this weekend. He just called every night to say goodnight to the children. He just texted me once. Are you in love with Jay? No. Is he better than me? No. Are you going to start dating him if we divorce? I didn't answer.
Storytime about why I hate my brother's girlfriend. So a little background information, I was 14 years old and had just started my freshman year of high school, and my brother and his girlfriend were both seniors. And we're gonna call his girlfriend Riley. Now, Riley and my brother started dating in the middle of the summer, and you would think since they just started dating and basically just met each other that I wouldn't know her that well. But literally 2 days after they started dating, she started spending every single day at my house. I'm being serious, like she had a whole duffel bag that had basically her closet in it. But that wasn't the problem. So in the summertime, my parents would plan a lot of family activities, and since they were called family activities, his girlfriend wasn't allowed to go. I mean, I think she would have been allowed to go, but she was also really disrespectful to my mom. So after one of our family days, my parents asked my brother if Riley would be joining us for dinner, and he just ignored them and went up to his room. And my room's right next to his, so I could hear everything. And Riley called him like for part 2. Part 2 about why I hate my brother's girlfriend. So like I said, my room was right next to my brother, so I could literally hear everything. And I guess Riley called him and she was complaining about me. She was like, she's the reason why your mom doesn't like me. I feel like she's jealous of me. She doesn't want us to be together, which was really weird because I didn't give a fuck about what my brother did. So fast forward, school finally starts, and Riley lived about 20 minutes away from us. So my brother told her that he couldn't go and pick her up for school every day. But obviously I would ride to school with him because we lived together. Anyways, eventually she had a problem with that too. So my brother and I had to start leaving 30 minutes early to get to school so we could pick her up. So the first time that we pick her up, we pull up to her house. And obviously I'm in the front seat and she's just standing there. So my brother rolls down the window and he's like, get in the fucking car, we're gonna be late. And then she literally has the audacity to start arguing with my brother in front of me about why she should get the front seat instead of me. Like for part 3. Part 3 about why I hated my brother's girlfriend. So like I said, once she got in, she started screaming about how she should get the front seat instead of me. So I turn around and I'm like, last time I checked, you've only been here for 2 months. Stay in your fucking lane. And then she starts crying because she's like, oh my god, your sister's so mean to me. Like, I just feel like I should have more respect as his girlfriend. So fast forward to the weekend, my mom said that she needs to have a talk with me. And she's like, honey, I know you may not like your brother's girlfriend, but you have to stop being mean to her. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've only had one conversation with her in the last week, and that was to tell her to stay in her fucking lane. And then I told her about everything going on. So she calls my brother down to ask him if it's true. And my brother was pretty pissed off at me, but he wouldn't lie. So my mom said that she was not allowed over the house anymore, and that he wasn't allowed to go pick her up from school until I got my license. So that just caused more problems between her and my brother, so he broke up with her. And then she started spreading rumors that she broke up with him because there was something weird going on between him and I.